Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. I've been thinking a lot lately about equality, and not just between races, but actual economic equality. We know there's an obvious disparity between, racial groups and income, with the Chinese and the Europeans coming out on top and everybody else descending from there. We also know that there is a generational problem with wealth and opportunities. Some people wind up in that poor environment and they simply cannot get out of it. While other people are so ridiculously rich they can fail their whole lives and there's still money backing them up. And it's the problem of our system, theoretical capitalism. I say theoretical because we do not live in a capitalist system. A capitalist system involves capital, the investment of money to produce goods and profit. No. We live in a bond state where everything is held as property and accumulating as much wealth as possible is the only goal. The Puritans settled the United States. For the most part, their journey on the Mayflower is infamous. And they had a few key sayings that are still prevalent today. The one that's in my mind, which was I first got exposed to by my teacher when I was 17, is the measure of a man is the jingle in his pocket. And unfortunately, in the Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic countries, we've all taken this to heart. We idolize people for being rich. 45th president, Mr. Bezos, anybody rich. Poke anybody rich's name in here. Mitt Romney probably would never have been a decent politician if he didn't have a massive amount of wealth behind him. And this is easy to see. You look at the governors and the mayors and the members of parliament and the prime ministers and all that for the past 30, 40, even 50 years, and they all had money behind them. Every single one. Maybe Jesse Ventura. And even he had a little bit of pocket change to throw around. He ran his campaign for $2 million. And he beat people and the Republicans, the Democrats, spending $40 million. But he still had $2 million to put down to become the governor of, was it Minnesota? Anyways, that was last century. But that's the problem with equality. Everybody theoretically has an equal opportunity to do anything in life. But the reality is they don't. Where do we even start to fix this system? Well, the answer is, under the current capitalist system, we can't. And it's only going to get worse the more mechanized, the more information-based that we get. Information itself is a commodity. Knowing how to do something gives you the opportunity to make money. I have somebody in the immediate vicinity who makes their money by simply being a personality. And that's what I'm going to say. I have another person who makes their money by being a mechanic. Both of these are important jobs. Some would say, the mechanic actually contributes something, but I argue they both contribute something. Now, that being said, I live not too far from an area where, if I tried really hard, I could probably put the camera on it, but I don't want to. And they're not quite so wealthy over there. Over there, they have rent control. The people are living on essentially what is welfare, and people wind up in that cycle for a long time. Let's pretend for a second, let's look at two situations. Same person, same personality, let's even put in same skin color. One graduates high school and goes straight into working for whoever, McDonald's, Walmart, you name it. That's that's their career path. And I'm purposely giving them a lower job. Meanwhile, his identical twin brother, okay, let's call them Rob will be the guy who graduated high school and went straight into whatever, and Ray will be the brother who went to university. Now, Ray goes to university and decides to take something decent. Let's say pharmacology. Pharmacists are always in demand, but it's a 4-year program. Now, for that 4 years, unless he has money behind him, he's accumulating debt. And, wow, my voice is bad today. I apologize. So, Ray winds up coming out of university with a decent chance of landing a job. There's not too many unemployed pharmacologists. But the same token, he's already racked up $100,000 to $150,000 worth of debt. Or if he's somehow slashed and saved and worked extra to keep all of his expenses down, maybe he's below $80,000. So here they are. They're both, we're going to say, 25 years old. Rob has become an assistant manager at Walmart or McDonald's or whatever have you. And Ray is just starting off in the workplace. They both have the same opportunities, but right now they're at different places in life. Rob is making more money than Ray. He's got his own apartment. He's got everything that he wants, and he's actually got some seniority at work. Meanwhile, Ray is just starting. He's got to find a job. He's got to pay this massive student loan, and that's their life. Again, identical twin brothers, Rob and Ray. Now, as the years go by, Rob becomes the manager of his store, and he's making maybe $30,000, $40,000, because believe it or not, Walmart managers and McDonald's managers are not raking in the cash. They're not paid much better than the employees. It's scary why anybody would want to take on those responsibilities for so little money. While Ray has become an assistant pharmacist, but it's a place that he's comfortable. He's able to pay his student loan. He's able to have an apartment. They both meet and get married and stuff like that, and all the expenses that come along with it. So, who is better off in life with an identical start? Well, Ray is slightly better off because the pharmacist position opens more doors for him potentially. Once you hit store manager at Walmart, it tends to be a long time before you get promoted out of that. Same with McDonald's. You don't become regional manager or anything automatically. And these are unfortunately most of the jobs. I mean, you can go out, get your forklift license and, make $18, $20 an hour scooting around on a loading dock, and get your crane license and make about the same. But those opportunities are hard, and again, it involves schooling more than just high school. Now, this is assuming everything is equal. These two people that I have described both must be pretty well off because they were able to complete high school. That's no easy feat. I mean, to do that, that means they had enough food in their bellies. They had some sort of shelter over their heads. They had some sort of family supporting them. Even in the most minimalistic way, if it's the most abusive family possible, they still had somewhere that they could go. Now, let's remove all that. Start somebody off, no fault of their own, abusive parents, abusive uncle, abusive situation, lives in a rat hole. The parents are, doing junk and dealing and all that sort of things, and they have to move every couple months because it depends on who's out of prison at a time. It'd be very hard to get into any sort of school environment because you're switching all the time. Believe me, I've seen it happen. You see the kids come in and they have no idea. Kids do need routine. As much as parents these days want to sit back and say, oh, my little Johnny's allowed to do what he wants. No. Kids need a routine. They need to know 9 o'clock you're in bed, or 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, whatever it is, depending on your age. And then they get used to routine. Yeah, okay, on the weekend you can let your kids stay up late and watch a movie or whatever it is that you care, whatever it is that you care to do. But they have to realize that there is a routine. And unfortunately, no matter how equal we make things, you know, Johnny Longbottom, whose descendants trace back to the Bank of England, sorry, I keep getting that wrong. His ancestors go back to the formation of the Bank of England, is always going to be in a better position than Jamal Maguire, who was raised in the inner city, etc., etc. The rich person is going to be able to suffer defeats easier than the poor person. And so what we wind up with is a perpetuating cycle of poverty. The kid coming from a bad environment has two choices. Either they have to turn out to be super person. I don't know if you're allowed to mention the comic character, both because of his title and gender and all that sort of stuff. So we're just going to say super person. And then little Juanita has to sacrifice and work multiple jobs so that she can hold a place and still go and get an education to keep herself going. And that's hard to do. I mean, kids, I don't care who you are, when you're 18 or 21 in the United States, you start to learn that you need to shake loose a little bit, have a little bit of a party, which I don't mean drinking and drugs. I just mean just hang out with your friends and have a good time. But anything you do costs money and is an opportunity. Little Juanita, I don't know why I decided on the name, I just like Juanita as a name. Little Juanita doesn't have time for that because she's working 2 jobs and going to school, which takes a lot of effort. And the buses to go between it, because I'm assuming you can't afford a car, and to have her little room is very expensive. So on the weekend, or whenever she gets a chance, she's either studying or she's asleep. And that's the sacrifices she has to make for 20, maybe even 30 years, because maybe she can afford full-time school, maybe she can't. But it's still a sacrifice that little Juanita has to make. It's not an equal opportunity. Juanita is killing herself while Johnny Longbottom just coasts along in university unless he chooses to do something for himself. So equality is not possible without eliminating generational wealth. And this is where it gets really sticky. I don't care about being called a communist. I don't care about being called anything that you care about. Silverlight is just a voice voicing his opinion. But inherited wealth is one of those things that we're going to have to start taking a look at. Yes, it is a testament to a person that they are able to accumulate a lot of wealth in their life. Let's leave aside the spiritual part. Let's just deal solely in economic opportunity and equity. It is a testament to a person's ability in life that they can start from the bottom, work their way up, and become the success. They became a doctor. They became a millionaire by starting a business. Whatever it is they chose to do is still an accomplishment, especially considering how many people are still stuck in the cycle of poverty. And it feels wrong to take that away from them. That being said, the billions and billions that the trillionaires are cycling through their own accounts over and over again are untouchable. Even with this new treaty being signed, these billions are just being kept out of the government's coffers, and they're being kept from being spent on the people who could deserve it. Now, there's this old adage that the poor are lazy. No, that is completely wrong. The poor feel defeated. And I know, I've been there. I've been on my back a couple times in my life, and it feels like there's no point to fighting anymore. I've said it a few times, and I'm not ashamed to admit this. It would be better if I didn't have morals, because then I could be a criminal and not feel guilty about it. I'll admit to saying it. And that's just because I was in a bad headspace at that particular area. But that's the kind of mentality that the poor people get. Why should I fight? Because, every time I start to get ahead, the government increases my taxes. The rich person next door takes it away from me. All sorts of things happen in that world. People are actually not afraid to work, with a few exceptions. But most people want to work. The pandemic proved that. more people were going back to work than were staying at home, even if they were making more money off the payments from the government than they were at their job. They were still happy to go to work. The cycle of poverty is only there because it is allowed to exist. Now, equity. How do we start establishing equity within this system that so clearly is geared to favor the fortunate? Don't know if it's possible. Like I said, I don't like the idea of seizing anybody's assets, and trying to take money from billionaires is like trying to take water out of a waterfall. You're never gonna be able to capture anything more than a few bucketfuls, and the billionaires and the trillionaires won't even notice. Look at those guys that own sports teams. They're dumping literally $1 billion or more in salaries into that team every year, and it doesn't bother them. The next year they sign more checks, they have more money, and it's just perpetuating that cycle. And that's why, unfortunately, people aspire to be an athlete, they aspire to be a rapper, they aspire to be that because they realize it's a quick fix to their situation. And it is. You get into that situation, a couple of contracts, you're making in the millions, and you're doing good for yourself, as compared to the 20 to 30 year slog to go through, get an education, to be a success, and prove yourself in your field. Yeah, I can see why the quick fix is much more attractive. And there's a lot of talent. Poor people are not lazy, slovenly people. Some are. That's just like some rich people are lazy and slovenly. But poor people have talent. Everybody has talent, whatever it is. Like my friend the mechanic, like my friend the personality, everybody has talent. And it's important we start recognizing all this talent. Maybe we cannot monetize it. Maybe that talent is going to wind up being wasted. But what we can do with the talent is allow it to express itself. And then maybe it's going to find a market. Just maybe. Because right now, there's a lot of money going around, and in the digital age, there's enough content available that anything is going to find a decent audience. We're not equal. Everybody has different opportunities. The difference is what we do with the opportunities we have. Are you going to be a crook? Are you going to be a drug dealer? Are you going to be a rapper? Are you going to be a basketball player? Are you going to go to school? These are all big questions. And I mean, a lot of times after high school, and I remember hearing this as a kid, and I still do it, people are like, oh, I'm sick of school. I couldn't go to college or university. I'm so sick of sitting in a classroom. I want to get out there in the world and make something. Again, that would be Rob's mentality, whereas Ray's mentality is, yeah, I need to go to school and learn more so I can get the job that I want. But no matter what, we'll never be equal. And this continuing fight to try to force equality into a system that is inherently designed to discourage it is never going to end well. So this is going to remain a question because, honestly, I cannot figure it out. But what can we do to increase equity and equality? Because I agree, yes, there is inequality. There's all sorts of it in the Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic nations. There is discrimination. There is nepotism. There's all sorts of inequalities going on. And it is something that needs to be fixed. Because every year, more and more, that cycle of poverty sweeps up more and more people into its grasp, while the rich and the uber rich stay rich. The only thing being destroyed is the middle class, the middle ground where the people worked hard to get to, and it's being taken away from them. To save any sort of equality, we need to save the middle class. And we also need to take care of those who are in poverty, because otherwise we wind up with this get-rich-quick mentality that is destroying our system. I'll leave you with that to think about. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please hit like, share, and subscribe. And we hope you have a fantastic day.